Hello, fellow traders. Tis I, TheRumpledOne, coming to you on Sunday, September the 24th. The year is 2023. Let's talk trading, weekly, open, and gap. These videos are for educational purposes only. Your results may differ from mine. And I know I didn't do a weekly wrap-up, so we'll try and combine them. So far this week, we can see that all the gaps have filled. And we're right around the weekly open, 9 pips off the high, 5 pips off the low. So not much movement. And the one thing to note, we're pretty much opening right just, a pip below the launch pad. So I'm looking for a price to go to the upside. Zoom out to the monthly. You can see September's been a big down month. We're only 10 pips off that monthly low at the moment. And we are 432 pips below the monthly open. And if we take a quick look here at the daily, we can see we're putting in the opening range for the week. We're only almost 5 hours into the first day of the week, and we are 336 pips below the low of the monthly opening range. And as you can see here, we're now only 151 pips above the yearly open. We crossed that yearly midpoint. We're 232 pips below it. And if those of you who've known me for over a decade know that one of my favorite trades used to be that midpoint, previous midpoint. Very strong bias at the midpoint. You can see here we are below the previous month's midpoint. So that was one of the things that I really that was a favorite trade of mine, especially the daily previous mid. And you can see we have broken below that inside bar high that happened on the monthly level 7 months ago. There's a handful of inside bar action in the daily, weekly, and monthly. But for the pound, you can see we're in that inside bar area. And since this day is just getting started, there's not much range to speak of. And it seems like we're just playing right now with that weekly open at 29 or 22.39. You can see we just bounced a few pips there. And of course, with the range only being 14 pips, no rat zone at the moment. Bambino flex indicator says go long near the pivot. The pivot trading plan says go short. So we'll have to see which one of those wins out. See if we can take out today's pivot at 22.54. We've got a weekly pivot at 22.97, and we missed last week's pivot, something to take note of, and we have missed this month's pivot. But we're only 56 pips away from, let's see, this pivot here at 21.86, which is the April pivot. In and out of that lower wick zone. Looks like a couple of times today. That's the daily wick zone there. Looking at the hourly chart. And let's take a look at the weekly ranges. Last week we came in at 194 pips, put us in the 41 percentile of the last 12 weeks. We did not break out of the high last week, but we did break out of the low by 148 pips, 91 percentile. That was a big break. Now last week, high minus close, 186 for the red rats. Close minus low was only 9 for the green rats. Not much movement there for the green rats on that weekly low. high minus open is 45 pips. So, and open minus low is 150. So the weekly open crossover buy zone traders were rewarded. And looking at the price action, simple chart. First, we'll look at the hourly. You can see here we're below the open of this hour, bouncing off of that daily open at 39. Moving over to the half hour, you can see that it took two 30s to cover this one. Looks like we've covered this one. We had an outside bar here. And remember, I like to see these outside bar breaks, take them. And that one was probably only worth about 3 pips though. Usually they're worth more, but once again, this is the opening of the Sunday or Monday, depending on where you are in the world. And it's usually not much range happening unless there's news. Lower high, higher low, you can see off of the 3 balls. We've had some action, good for a few pips. So if this is the time that you trade, you know, based on where you live or based on when you like to trade, even though there's not as much range as say the London and the New York sessions, there's still range. You can make your pips. You just have to make your goals a little bit lower. And in fact, that was something I wanted to mention. You know, in trading, a lot of times we don't really have goals. And if you don't have goals, and you know, even if you have this trading plan that tells you when to trade, you don't know really what to do. So for example, let's just say you want to make $10,000. Well, the question is, by when do you want to make it? You know, how many trading days are you going to give yourself to make it? And so what do you have to do per trading day? How much do you have to make a day? And then how many trades do you want to take in a day to make that? And when you make it, do you stop or do you keep going? These are all questions you really need to answer. I know sometimes what will happen to me is I'll have a few, you know, a nice chunk of pips, and then I take that one more trade, and next thing I know, I'm fighting to survive. And it's just one of those things, not knowing when to quit or not knowing when you say enough's enough for today. And, you know, that trader fatigue, which is something that I try to, or sometimes I'm more aware of it than other times. It's like if I've been sitting at that screen for a half hour or an hour or more, then it's like, you know what, I just need that. When I get out of whatever trade I'm in, I just need to get up, walk around, just get away from the screen. I don't care what I miss. Or if I'm not in a trade and I realize it, just get away from the screen for, you know, just a few minutes, maybe just 2, sometimes maybe 5 or more, just to give myself a chance to relax, you know, grab something to eat or drink, just so I can have a reset, a little reprieve. And you might find that that helps, and then you can get more perspective. And if you missed the trade, so what? There'll be another. And then maybe you may have that might have saved you, because maybe you were looking to go long, and had you taken that trigger, you'd be looking at a 20 pip deficit. So that's just something to consider while you're trading. And you can see here for the month of September, we're at 482 pips on the range. And if we compare that to the ATR, you can see we have 559 range. So obviously we haven't hit that yet. So if we look at the ATR percent, we're at 80%. So that's a lot better than last month's 49. So it's interesting, we haven't had a month over 100 so far this year. Something to keep in mind. And as far as the year-to-date accumulated range, as you can see, we haven't expanded since July. So once again, something to keep in mind. And as far as what we've done, the close minus open percent, you can see we've been giving it up since July. We've given up, what, 4.9%. So if you were riding it out, you're just watching the money go away. Once again, if you don't know what your targets are, when you want to quit, when you want to walk away, you can just see diminish. And then you get into that loop where you want to fight to get back what you had, only to lose more. That's a downward spiral. The next thing you know, you could go on tilt and goodbye. And you can see here, looking at a monthly chart, we're just down or below the previous month's lower wick zone. Price is turning down. We've exceeded the last month's range. Sellers are in strong control. Below the mid, below the pivot. Everything's going against us there. For the week, we're just slightly above the open. We're between the wick zones at the moment. Sellers have weak control, very weak control on the weekly chart. It says fade the pivot, so we want to buy. And we have a lower high and a higher low, which means inside bar. For the day, we're slightly above the open at the moment. We're between the wick zones. Sellers, once again, weak control. And a fade the pivot buy, lower high, higher low, and so far inside bar. So, fellow traders, that kind of wraps up the week and tells you about this week, what to expect. I'll be doing more of the videos about the stories that we tell ourselves. I'm kind of having fun with that because there's just so many stories out there. I see some new ones when I look at other forums or read other email that I get from different traders. And, you know, it just really goes to show that it's really not what you trade. It really is how you trade it. So go out there and drain the banks. I hope you all had a fun and safe weekend. Until next time, this is TheRumpledOne, over and out.